Morning, everyone. I'll call Committee on Local Government Finance to order. I have a roll call now, Matthew.
Chairman Lovett,
Here.
Member Foley, Member Gamboa, Member Gamboa, Member Marty Johnson,
Here.
Member Paul Johnson,
Here.
Member Rackley,
Here.
Member Trask.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a couple of comments as we begin. It seems to me that, I've been involved in local government a long time now. And it seems to me recently we've had increasing problems as they relate to getting audits performed and done on time. And it seems like we're headed into a period where we've seen several financial problems arising, particularly among the schools. We'll talk about that as the meeting goes on. But I think it's something that we need to be really aware of that concerns me. Because when we say, for instance, we are close now to the end of the fiscal year, and we've still got some audits outstanding from the last fiscal year. And so when you do that, you don't have clear beginning balances, and we go into new budgets, and everything is a real concern. And I think we need to do whatever we need to do. It seems to me that when we arrive at this point in time, and I know there's problems that arise, but when we are in the middle of May and we don't have an audit completed for the year that ended June of a year ago, that it shows something should have been done, that it's not been done prior to now to get this done. And I think we need to correct that. And just want you to understand how I feel about that as we go into this meeting today. First item on the agenda, Kelly, go ahead and introduce that for us, would you?
Kelly Grammons. Oh, public.
Oh, yeah, public comment.
Persons wishing to provide public comment remotely may access the meeting by using the telephone numbers and meeting IDs posted on the agenda. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and comments based on viewpoint will not be restricted. Public comment will be available at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the agenda. At the discretion of the chairperson, additional public comment may be heard when the agenda item is reached. The chairperson may allow additional time to be given to a speaker as time allows at his sole discretion. NRS 241.020, NRS 241.030. Are there any members in attendance in Reno who wish to provide public comment? If you are on Zoom and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. If you are on the telephone, please dial *9 to be put in the queue. No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Now, Kelly, go ahead.
Okay. Kelly Grammons, Supervisor, Local Government Finances. For possible action, financial condition reports by the department and the local government entities, consideration and possible adoption of recommendations and orders. The first one is Incline Village General Improvement District. One, the department will update on monthly reports requested due to fiscal watch status pursuant to NRS 354.685, and IVGID to provide status update regarding FY25 audit and progress made on due diligence audit. Representing IVGID is the General Manager, Robert Harrison, and the Financial Manager, Noemi Farter. The documents in your packet for IVGID include the February and March bank reconciliations, the FY 25 audit, FY 25 audit governance communications for the audit, notes to the audit and the single audit report, their tentative budget and their approval letters for both the audit and the budget, and the Reuben Brown closeout report. Just like I say, the 36 out of 41 of them are closed. So in their audit on page 53, 3 funds exceeded budgeted appropriations: the utilities fund, the community service fund, and the beach fund. They also had 1 deficit fund balance. Their plan of corrective action is going to their board on June 10th, 2026. Oh. And then Robert Harrison, it has an update, and he also has the statement was handed out and also emailed this morning.
Okay, I would like to hear exactly where we stand at the current moment on everything. And also I would like you to report to us how you intend that this audit for the year ended June 30th this year is not going to be late. You're going to be up to date on that, and we won't see any violations. So if you go ahead and do that for us, please.
Thank you, Chair and honorable committee members. Appreciate being back to see you this month and appreciate the opportunity to update the committee on where we stand as it regards to our fiscal watch designation. With me today online is Mick Homan, who is our treasurer, Noemi Barter, who is our finance director, Brianne Larson, who is our auditor, and David Rigdon, who is our city counsel. That can answer any questions that may be here. There was a public comment, and our attorney has addressed that previously. And if you have any questions regarding that, that's why he's here, to be able to address that. I think we gave you a lot of data. We really appreciate Kelly and the previous Kelly as well, and helping us through this process. I mean, if you had to design something that the intentionality of what CLGF is to do when you got an agency like ours who falls into problems, I think we're going to be a poster child for what you do to get healthy and well. We've made some very significant progress over the past year, starting with stabilized leadership in the finance department. Some of the highlights include, but are not limited to, the fiscal 2025 audit was conducted by Clifford Larson Allen and completed with an unqualified opinion. The 2025 single audit was completed. The fiscal 26 auditor, CLA, has been re-engaged with planning in place to issue timely report before November 30th, 2026 statutory deadline. And Chair, she is available online if you want to ask her specifically. We are in there and their queue to make sure we hit the November 30th deadline. The forensic audit findings closed out. 36 of the 41 items from the Reuben Brown report was fully closed. The remaining 5 items, as it relates to interim controls and processes, are in place, awaiting final closeout with implementation of the Tyler ERP modules. We've provided a number of control issues from the 2024 audit that have been fully or partially remediated as of the end of fiscal 25. Our preliminary budget for fiscal year 2027 was completed and accepted by the State Department of Taxation. We're on track for final budget completion following review with the Board of Trustees on May 27th. The public hearing for the facility fee is also scheduled for May 27th. We've achieved full stability within our finance and accounting organization. The department is now fully staffed for the first time in 3 years. The director and comptroller have significant career experience in public accounting. Comptroller coming to us from Douglas County, as a matter of fact. All reconciliations are up to date, complete on a timely basis. The ERP system is back on track with our primary modules operational. Any remaining modules subject to clear rollout deadlines and ongoing tracking. An internal power users committee was set up within the administration that works together with the finance department to identify and implement any changes in operations that ensure the reporting to the Tyler system is now part of the business processes, and that departments are now able to fully pull reliable reports out of the Tyler system. And financial reporting to the board is occurring on a monthly basis with the reports pulled directly out of the system. The board packets include a treasurer report, a monthly bill pay report, and regular financial reports. And the district finance director presents those reports to the board publicly at the first board meeting of every month. And all of that documentation you've received as part of your packet. As a committee can see, we've returned to a healthy, well-functioning organization that has its finances in order and is transparent to the public. We're now meeting all the requirements for GIDs under state law. We know a handful of our residents consistently write the Department of Taxation making representations of fraud or mismanagement by the district. We even had one resident who wrote a book about claimed the years and years of fraud at IVGID, for 21 straight years from 1997 to 2018. The district won certificates for excellence in financial reporting. And so regardless of what outside entities still say, we still get that criticism. You're going to continue to hear that, I think, going forward. And I appreciate a comment you made several months ago, Chair, that said, hopefully the broader community can see what we're trying to accomplish up there. And I think
Well, I have a lot of memories about what you talked about over this long period of years.
Yes, very good. Working with our citizen audit committee, we've already cleared or have a plan to rectify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that were identified in the audit. And the few remaining items from the Reuben Brown report, we've been as transparent as possible. But unfortunately, it's not going to be enough for some of our residents. It's just the way it is. I'd also call to your attention an op-ed piece that was written by our treasurer that highlights all the changes that have taken place in the district over the year. And there's a link to that in these statements. And now that given that IVGID is now in compliance with all state statutes, I would respectfully request that the committee consider lifting the fiscal watch designation from IVGID. As you hear from our finance director and auditor about those items specifically on the agenda, I'd encourage you to ask your staff about the status of the district meeting those objectives by the state. In our conversations with her, we believe we're in full compliance at this point. And while I'm sure there are residents who would vociferously argue that we should remain on fiscal watch, I'm hopeful that you can consider lifting that designation, or if not today, just informing us what we still may need to do to demonstrate that we've become a reputable and healthy organization again. With that, Noemi or Brienne, do you have any comments on specific items that the chair had asked about?
Yes. Hi, good morning. Noemi Barter, Director of Finance with IVGID. So to elaborate on the chair's question about how we can mitigate this going forward. So as part of the finance department, we have already begun some of our year-end processes. We've been meeting with the departments to go over purchase order closeouts and year-end accruals and how the processes will function department-wide. We are internally setting up our checklists, our review processes for reconciling our point of sale systems and starting that process now so that when June 30 comes that we're fully prepared. We have our year-end checklists as well that are developed so that we can begin to prepare some of the more robust schedules earlier. I'm already thinking about debt schedules, capital, year-end accruals already now in the end of May and how we can get ahead of those items, knowing that we are closing down all invoice processing as of August 15th. We've communicated that out so that we can have that 2-week turnaround time and have a final trial balance to the auditors by the 1st of September, at which point we have discussed with our auditors that we will be in that second week of September timeframe in order to meet the November 30th deadline.
Thank you. Could you, either one of you, give us just a short update about how you see your current financial condition, both at the present time and as it looks to the future, your revenues and expenses and those kind of things? Would you just give us a short update on that?
Yeah, so we are in a good condition. We have made cuts, and those were kind of outlined in the letter from the treasurer. but we've had to make over $3 million in adjustments, but most of those have been efficiency based. We've eliminated several kind of middle management positions to get into a good condition. We have $55 million in reserves for the organization. I'm glad to say we can identify where those are now. And very clear, we've got a balanced budget going into this next year. So, the biggest challenge we have going forward has been the facility fee and making sure it's at a level that we can invest in the infrastructure that needs to get done. And that's the one thing that's been lacking over the years, has been that investment into our infrastructure. We've just started a new beach house. That was fully funded over the past couple of years for the facility fee. We've just started a new skateboard park. So I will say the organization and the new board that's come in has been very focused on remediating those things to help us maintain a healthy long-term financial picture and also operational picture there.
Let me just make a comment that I very much appreciate what you've done. I think probably we're seeing more progress in this last year or so than we've seen for many, many years. I appreciate that. Now, as to Fiscal Watch, my own personal opinion about Fiscal Watch is that while I appreciate everything you've done, I want to see an audit report on November 30th. When we see an audit report on November 30th, then I think we'll give consideration, unless other committee members have a differing opinion. But in my way of thinking, at least when we see that audit report on November 30th, and we've gone through a cycle and everything is up to date, then I think we'll consider removal of Fiscal Watch. I understand my feeling about that then. Any comments by members of the committee on the status of this organization or anything we need? Yes, Gina.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you, Gina Rackley. I just want to commend the work that you guys have done. Member Foley and I were appointed as a subcommittee to come and work with your crew, and you truly have moved forward in great stride, better than I even had expected. So I commend you for that. And I agree with Chairman Levitt. I think the final telltale sign will be the audits. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions by the committee? Don't see any. Thank you very much. On to Douglas County now.
Kelly Grammond, Supervisor, Local Government Finances. Next, we have Douglas County School District. And we'll have an update from the subcommittee, which met on March 27th. Discussion from Douglas County School District regarding its FY27 budget and identified budget deficit and the anticipated impact of such deficit. 3, discussion of the strategic recovery plan sent on February 25th, 2026, and discussion and consideration of the current fiscal condition of the district. This may include determination to place the district on fiscal watch or to issue a recommendation to the Nevada Tax Commission for declaration of severe financial emergency. Representing Douglas County School District in person are Superintendent Frankie Alvarado, the Director of Business Services, Susan Estes, Chief Financial Officer, Terry Willoughby, and the documents in your packet for Douglas County School District include the Douglas County tentative budget. Any highlights or red marks are mine. And that's in the back of your packet, and Douglas County Strategic Recovery Plan. And this morning we got the fiscal stabilization and recovery plan follow-up.
Before we give your presentation, Marty or Paul, could you give us a short update on the subcommittee meeting and what you discussed and determined at that meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we met with Frankie, and they outlined a number of items that the board and administration have gone through in order to reduce their deficit. I think it's important to recognize that, in 2022, they had a a positive fund balance of 11.5 million. And from that period to where we are now, 5 years, it's gone to a pretty sizable negative balance. So this hasn't happened overnight. So I don't think we can expect them to get out of this overnight. They have a plan to reduce their expenditures to get to a balanced budget, not within one fiscal period, but 2 fiscal periods. We also shared with them a need for statement of cash flows and provided them with a template that similar to what Tom has used and Marty's familiar with, so that they could use that to keep us abreast of cash flows. But I think they're headed in the right direction. If Marty has anything else to add to that, for all the signs that I have, they're headed in the positive direction.
Thank you. Marty?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I generally agree with what Paul said, and it does look like they are making substantial progress. To me, the big thing that came out of our subcommittee meeting was it does appear as though they are using an all funds approach to managing cash. And so that's where the cash flow discussions came from, is identifying what the cash balances are in the general fund and other funds versus the restricted funds like debt service. And that was something I believe that we asked for some reports on, and to the best of my knowledge, we have not seen any of that. But to me, that's going to be an important piece of this. Not that we can really do anything about it. They've got to pay their bills and use cash that's available. But I think there needs to be a recognition that it's likely that we are using debt service fund balances to cover checks written in other funds.
In other words, make that comment slightly different. We're using debt service funds, which are by law restricted for debt service, for other purposes. Now, you will address that in your comments. Now, did you at the committee level, subcommittee level, did you discuss fiscal watch and whether it'd be appropriate to put them on fiscal watch?
Yeah, we did. And it's our collective opinion that probably would be the recommendation to be on fiscal watch.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Let's go ahead then.
Okay, Superintendent Alvarado for the record. Good morning, Chairman Leavitt and Committee on Local Government Finance. We're here to provide you an overview of the corrective action measures that we've implemented and that are still pending as it relates to the fiscal recovery and stabilization plan we submitted to you earlier this year. So I'm going to refer to the presentation, the packet that is attached to the agenda. So all of you should have a copy. And so really, we had to assess the progress that we're making towards our budgetary reductions as outlined in that fiscal recovery plan. As a reminder for everybody, we had an ending fund balance depletion. The main factors for that ending fund balance depletion is we had 17.4% enrollment decline since 2016, 14% total expenditure growth during that time frame. And then most recently, we were flat funded per pupil in the most recent biennium, which has created the storm that we're currently navigating. So that's just a reminder for the committee as we go through this plan here. I'm now on slide 4. So we had a projected deficit at 5.4 million. The board made some strategic maneuvers and actions earlier this year. Per NRS 288.150, the board has declared a fiscal emergency and has requested to go back to the table with each of our associations. Our current ending fund balance projection for this year is in between these two figures. We're not quite sure what our underspend is going to be. So we're estimating our ending fund balance for fiscal year 26 to fall between a deficit of 849,000 to approximately $970,885. We're hoping for the most underspend as possible, so we're closer to the 849 range. But it is imminent that we will have a deficit at the end of this fiscal year as well. Okay, moving forward to the next slide. Here are some immediate corrective actions that the board and the district has implemented. Back in December, there was contract denials for 2 associations for our certified group as well as for our bus drivers, which avoided approximately $928,000 of an additional expenditures. The district has implemented a hiring freeze, a very strict hiring freeze that has brought back just about $1.25 million back into our budget. And then we did some strategic maneuvering and shifted general fund expenditures that qualify under the capital fund. And then that saved about $1.1 million in our general fund for this fiscal year. That same strategy is what we're planning on implementing for the next 2 fiscal years. Slide 6, these are pending corrective actions, so these are not all the way completed. Today we have a regular board meeting in which the trustees will consider 2 tentative agreements and 1 meet and confer agreement. Each of those agreements are a savings to the district. The compromise is with those associations is a 5 workday reduction in their contract, which would give us substantial savings. Unfortunately, we're not at the point in time where we have a compromise with our largest association, which represents 75% of our salary and benefits. But I'm hopeful and I'm positive that we can come to an agreement and a compromise and hopefully bring that compromise to the June regular board meeting. In total, if all associations agree to 5 less workdays for next school year, that's just over $1 million that we would save in our expenditures for salary and benefits. We're moving forward with the hiring freeze. We've eliminated positions that are vacant that we don't need. We're moving forward with right-sizing the district. We've made tremendous progress in this area. As you can see, the difference from the tentative budget that was posted in April to the draft May final budget that the board will consider tonight. And if the board passes that, we will file that tomorrow with taxation. We're filling current vacant administrative positions with employees we already have in the district. So we are not hiring from the outside, we are hiring within. That allows us to control cost with new administrators in positions in our district. You never know what you're going to get from the outside. Typically in Douglas County, we're filled with retirees. And if we were to recruit a retiree to fill a principal role, that would be a huge impact on our budget in Douglas County. So we're making strategic maneuvers, transferring certain administrators for lateral movements, and then looking to hire from within for those promotional opportunities. Once again, the capital shift. So I believe there's questions regarding our debt service fund. So earlier this year, we had 3 resolutions to pull money from the debt service fund and put that into the capital projects fund. The intent of that debt service money is to fulfill our capital projects in the district. The intent is not to pay for operations. And so that is exactly what we're doing in Douglas County. If there's specific questions for that, Sue Estes can provide some clarity on that as I get to the end of the presentation here.
It appears, let me just ask, it appears that from what you said earlier, that you're essentially taking money from debt service into capital projects, and then you've converted some of the expenditures you previously made out of your general fund to the capital projects fund, and are using that money for things that previously were used for general operations. Is that correct?
That's a good question. So I'll clarify that. The general fund expenditures that we shifted over to capital qualify under capital expenditures. We did have our attorney review that and provide a legal opinion. They do support this maneuvering, and there's multiple other districts in the state of Nevada that also consider textbooks, technology equipment as capital expenditures. So we're doing the same thing as other districts in the state currently.
One of the reasons I asked the question is that obviously, that kind of thing can only continue so long as you have money in the capital projects fund, and you reach a point then when you can't do that and you still have the same obligations in the general fund.
Yeah, we're being very strategic. So recently we held a professional learning meeting for our trustees, as well as I don't know if John Peterson, what his official title is. He's our bond manager. So we met with John Peterson. He works with Marty Johnson, that's also on this committee. What we're learning about is our capacity to float a bond. And so we got a nice history lesson about the most recent bonds that the district has gone after and implemented. We've learned that we have just over $50 million in bond capacity in Douglas County. We do have plans to do an extensive review of every facility. Another item the board will consider tonight is a real property asset analysis. And they'll have an overview of every asset and every parcel the district owns. And that agenda is written as a flexible item where the board can give direction to offload assets, to renegotiate leases in those assets. So we're being very strategic in making sure that we learn before we take action. So we do have plans to work with the Record Courier this summer to write an article and give an update to our county on how we utilize the most recent bonds and to share with them that that was a fruitful experience for the district as well as the county. Next January, we plan to bring John Peterson out to give a public presentation to the board and to seek more community input. And then we'll have a nice comprehensive review of all of our property's needs and be able to have a dollar amount that we can consider floating a bond next year. But that's about a year away from now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I guess first I completely forgot it, but at the beginning I should have disclosed that we do work with the Douglas County School District on their debt and capital planning. But to back up what the superintendent's talking about, lots of districts have been moving to fund buses out of their capital project money instead of the general fund. And we are now seeing, again, as Frankie said, districts looking at doing textbooks. There is an old AG opinion that provides for that to be done. But you're right. At some point in time, perhaps you do run out of money. The one place Douglas School District has funds is the debt service fund. The revenues that are generated there compared to debt service do provide them a great deal of flexibility in doing some pay-as-you-go funding for things like buses, potentially textbooks, and then, as they've discussed, bonds in the future. What my comment was earlier isn't that the debt service money is being transferred out to pay operating expenses. It's that with a negative general fund balance, it just seems like there's got to be a negative cash balance in the general fund. And so that's being offset by the positive balance in the debt service fund. So when it's all said and done, yes, Douglas County has school district has cash. But if you were to look at the general fund, it's possible that that cash is negative and that's being offset by the cash that's in the debt service fund. That's the situation I was referring to.
And I've had concerns about that too. I think I mentioned before, concerned about that thing. Now, you want to address that particular point that Marty just made, and then I'll make a comment about my feelings about some of the things.
No problem. I'm going to pass the microphone to our Director of Business Services, Sue Estes, and she'll provide more clarity on that.
You're absolutely right, Marty. We are having to tap into, because we have an all funds that is actually created for all of our funds. Some of them are restricted, some of them not. And we only have one opportunity to actually do that, is that with the revenue that we actually receive right now, which is not enough to accommodate what the expenditures are that are happening with our general fund. So it is really taking the brunt end of the financial structure. But I do believe that talking about a floating bond probably allows us to actually take care of capital projects and not have to move those things back into operations, as we've discussed. We don't have a lot of choices. We have to use the cash that we have to actually pay the bills, to actually pay payroll. The money that we receive each month is starting to grow a little bit to where we are actually seeing positive balances in our general fund. So the money that is received from the state pretty much will take care of our payroll and probably 95% of all accounts payables. So it is slowly starting to actually build back a positive balance. But Marty's right. We don't have a lot of choices right now because we can't actually tap into any other resource. So that's basically the bottom line for that.
Yeah, I think there's essentially two things we're talking about here. One, you're essentially loaning money without a formal loan being approved.
Mhm.
And then the next thing is it even legal to have a formal loan approved for transferring money, debt service money for use in the general fund essentially.
Mhm.
Now, my feelings, given where, I appreciate what you've been doing. But given your situation and the complexity of all of this and the fact that we're still ways down the road, it's my feelings that we should recommend that you be placed on fiscal watch. Marty and Paul,
Yeah,
are you in agreement with that?
yeah, absolutely. I think it's essential. And I think ensuring that we have the proper fund balance accounting with the cash flows are important so they can see which cash flows are restricted so that we can make sure they return each fund to a positive balance, not just the general fund, but all funds, and that they're not borrowing from Peter's to pay Paul, so to speak, although that is one of my favorite sayings since my name's Paul, not Peter.
Paul
And
gets the money, right?
yeah. And, they're going to have statute violations. They're going to have to write a corrective action plan because they're using funds that they shouldn't be using in order to pay operating bills. And I think they're aware of that. But as they mentioned, at the point that they're in right now, they're left with no choice. They're doing the best they can with the situation that they're in. And as I mentioned before, this is something that Frankie had inherited. It's not a product of his creation. And they're doing their best to get their way out of it. And from my perspective, I'm more concerned with, do they have the tools in place to identify the shortage that they need to cover, the deficit, and accurately measure how much they need to cut? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think they have proven that they're making progress in that direction. I think it's a matter of time before they have a positive fund balance and they're out of this cash flow situation. But until that happens, it's going to be a rough ride until then. But I think a watch list is absolutely essential.
Okay. Any other comments, questions about this particular agenda item? If not, then Paul or Marty, why don't you go ahead and make a motion then to recommend they be placed on fiscal watch?
Happy to do that, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we put the district on fiscal watch. But I would like to add to that motion that an important part of that is getting some cash flow reporting from the district in fairly short order that identifies what the cash balances are of all of those major funds.
No, I agree with that. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. You got some additional items, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll move forward to slide 7. So as the board declared a fiscal emergency, that required us to reopen negotiations and get back to the table with all of our associations. So we had some proposed labor adjustments that were detailed in the fiscal recovery plan we submitted to all of you. And some of those items were a 4% salary reduction, PERS cost sharing, and a contract day reduction. As you can see on the right hand of that slide, we had to abandon certain cost savings We met with PERS. PERS will not allow us to split 1 year of the biennium. They would require us to go back to July 1, 2025. It's just not, it's not doable for us to go back and change everybody's salaries and benefits, going back to July 2025, especially when everybody's filed tax returns. That would just be a nightmare for the district and for all of our employees. So we had to abandon the PERS cost sharing as well as the 4% salary reduction. So right now, the only viable option for bargaining is a temporary workday adjustment for all of our employees. And that's currently what we're trying to bargain with our largest association. Moving forward to slide 8, this is verified current year and next year savings. These are the things that we've completed or that are pending board action. So at the very top, we're looking for a contract compromise. Tonight, the board will consider contracts for bus drivers, our classified unit, as well as our administrator meet and confer. All of those being a 5-day workday reduction. We've eliminated vacant positions. We've completed capital expenditure transfers from general fund over to capital. We did a classified staff hour reduction to their contract, which saved about $250,000. We've implemented RIFs for classified and certified management. Those are just under $1 million for those RIFs. We've implemented a school consolidation in very short order. We did that work in a matter of 3 months, and that's going to save the district right around $938,000, but we won't actualize those savings until about this time next year. And then the board has authorized an interlocal sale of a parcel that's adjoining the district office, and that's valued right around $400,000. We have not completed that interlocal agreement, but I do see that happening in the near future. And those funds will be placed in our building and sites fund, which could potentially be an intra-fund loan in the future if we get to that point. Total for all of that is $5.4 million. And that aligns right with what our structural deficit is. And so we're going to plow forward with our plan to right-size staffing and mitigate our expenditures. Okay. Slide 9 just goes into the consolidation. I've already mentioned, that saves us just under $1 million. The board has took action to consolidate C.C. Manili into Scarcelli Elementary. So we're merging those sites. As you can see on slide 10, we have this divided out into 3 phases. We feel that phase 1 is nearly complete. As we come to a close this fiscal year, we were able to present a budget to the board tonight that does have a positive balance by about $48,000 in the general fund. And we just have to have strict controls and be very frugal in all of our expenditures, for the next couple of years. The final slide here today is just a budget information. It's just the April tentative hearing budget versus the May final. And I'll pass it over to Sue Estes to provide some clarity on the differences in the budgets.
We have actually done quite a bit of reductions in salaries and benefits. Right now, we have about $1.9 million of the tentative budget ended up with a $2.2 million deficit. We've captured $1.9 million in salaries and benefits. We've also recognized some underspend in the current year that we think we'll be able to roll forward. That will at least bring our positive balance in the May final to a very minimal number, but it is at least a positive balance. So, and we really have in salaries and benefits, that's really where we have actually captured all the savings pretty much. We're trying to work on our special ed. Special ed is kind of an entity unto itself that is pretty costly. The special ed, we're recognizing we're doing some things right now that I think are going to show potential savings in our special ed to where we have reduced the transfer from the general fund just by $100,000 for next year. But we're hoping that we can work hard to make all that happen.
Let me ask a question if I could.
Sure.
The problem that you're in, I suppose, is something we're seeing somewhat around the state right now. Not with deficit balances, but declining enrollment. Seems to be a problem, and that's what I think got you into this problem initially. Are you situated now so that if we have the same thing happening again, you know, say we had the 10% declining enrollment this next year, is that going to put you in the same situation over and over again as long as you keep having a declining enrollment? Where do
We
we
did
stand
use a
on
very conservative number in our May final. Well, actually in our tentative budget, we used a conservative number. Frankie's working on some things and I let him address that, but he's working on some ways in which to draw. We've had a lot of withdrawals even in the current year that has given us a little bit of heartburn, about what's going into next year. But I think he's got some plans and I'll let him address that.
Superintendent Alvarado, for the record, Chairman Leavitt, that's a great question. So we did a review from fiscal year 16 to present, and I did share 17.4% decline. I've also done another review from fiscal year 22 to present. In that same time frame, we've lost 12% of our students. We have to expect to decline about 250 students on an annual basis. We've estimated that we'll have 200 less students into the district at the beginning of next year. And we're going to have to do a deep analysis every single year to make sure that our projections are spot on. NRS doesn't have a mechanism for us to reduce certified staff. After the statutory deadlines to notice them, they have a position. So our hands will always be tied in that area of the work. Unfortunately, this year we've experienced a withdrawal of students. About 426 kids have withdrawn from the district. Over 220 of those kids have gone to homeschool. Just in the last 2 months alone, we've had 50 withdrawals and only 9 enrollments. So the plan for Douglas County is the plan to shrink. We have to always be conservative in our budget assumptions as well as our staffing projections year after year. But it's without additional revenue from the state or a change in the formula, there's going to be no way for us to sustain. This is just going to be a perpetual issue if there's no changes in that funding formula.
We're going to be discussing it a little bit later on the agenda as relates to generally throughout the state, but I think this is given their situation statewide, it portends to be a very difficult situation for school districts, given the current law and this situation where you hire based on estimate and then actual money comes through based on actual.
Yeah, and what you see if you look at our budget comparison, we do have a 10-year general fund analysis. You'll see that we've been operating with less and less money substantially every single year since PCFP has been enacted.
Now, in general, in your particular situation, are you seeing a decline in the number of students that are in the range that they could be attending your school? Or are you just having people not attending your school and going somewhere else?
I think it's a mixture of both. Superintendent Alvarado, for the record. So what we're seeing is in the 12th grade class, we have right around 380 students, give or take a few. In our kindergarten class, we have about 270 students. For next year's kindergarten class, we have right around 177 registered kindergartners. However, parents do register late. If we don't get an extra 100 students in kinder next year, then we can expect our kinder enrollment numbers to be lower and lower every year moving forward. But there is a major discrepancy in what we're graduating and what we're bringing in.
Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? I do too much talking and then not enough coming from the others. Anything else you'd like to present to us before we go on to the next item?
That concludes our presentation. There was severe financial emergency listed as an action item. Is the CLGF being patient with declaring that for DCSD?
I personally don't think we're ready for a severe financial emergency in your situation. I think you're my own feeling, you're doing what you can to get yourself out of this. If it, if it were to continue down the road, maybe we, instead of, but right now, I don't think that's something we ought to do. I don't know. Do any of the committee members have any differing opinions on that?
Mr. Chairman, Member Johnson, yeah, I would agree. I think if they exhibited that they didn't have the ability to measure the revenues and expenditures and make appropriate cuts, then I would say maybe greater intervention was necessary. But I think the Superintendent Alvarado has pointed out that they have a path forward. So it seems to me that it's clear that they have the tools that they need in order to make the decisions. They just have to go through the process of executing those. And I do want to point out that, this isn't just hard on them, it's hard on that entire community and the students. It's not so it's in the best interest of the students. But unfortunately, being from a place that's had to have significant budget cuts in the past, at White Pine County School District, it's a tough process, but I think they have the right mindset and information to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you again for being here.
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort you've been making to get yourself out of this, and you're obviously, and I know you're not there yet.
Yeah, and I'll just conclude with this, Chairman Leavitt. The district has also hired and appointed a new CFO. So Terry Willoughby will start her assignment on July 1st. She's currently working with us on a professional service contract, to get prepared for the work in July. But thank you. Thank you to CLGF. Have a great day.
Thank you. On to the next item, White Pine County.
Okay, Kelly Grammond, Supervisor, Local Government Finances. Next, we have White Pine County. The county update regarding recent staff turnover, requesting action plan to ensure compliance with NRS 354.685. Discussion and consideration of current fiscal conditions of the White Pine pursuant to NRS 354.675 and NRS 354.685. This may include a determination to place White Pine on fiscal watch. Representing White Pine County is Chairwoman Paula Carson and Treasurer Catherine Backert. Documents in the packet for White Pine County include White Pine Fiscal Department request, White Pine letter to taxation from February 13th, 2026, and White Pine action plan from 3/30/26.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to disclose that I'm in a current contract with White Pine County, so I will be abstaining from any voting matters, but open for discussion and input as needed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Representatives, White Pine County, do we have you?
Catherine Backert is online and we're asking her to join as a panelist. I do not see folks online.
Go ahead and bring us up to date on where you stand on everything.
Backert, if you could accept the motion to panelist, we'll be able to talk. Hi, Commissioner. The meeting for Committee on Local Government Finances going on, and your item is up. Are you able to join in to provide an update?
Mute, unmute. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm sorry. Did you ask me to update on where we're at?
Yes.
Okay, so I can do that. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to address the three core responsibilities that this board emphasized last time I was there: submitting the budget, closing the fiscal year, and passing audit. It's my opinion that first, regarding the budget was submitted without legally required participation from the treasurer's office or other officers as charged by law. The submitted document was signed by a contracted employee who does not have any fiduciary duty to the county and is not required by law to comply with protocols designed to enforce internal controls, oversight, or separation of duties for county financial operations. This creates legal, procedural, and audit-related vulnerabilities. So while it was submitted on time, I don't claim any responsibility for that, and I don't think there is any officer in the county that does. Second, regarding closing the fiscal year, I believe that the year-end closing is scheduled to be performed by an outside company, and while they're familiar with Tyler, they're not familiar with our internal operations at all. Additionally, our new finance director isn't available until June 15th. And during this critical closing period without her here, I don't know how she's going to get up to speed, and she's also walked into a mess that this commission created. The increased risk of errors, misclassifications and delays will be material in our audit. Third of all, audit. Our internal control, separation of duties, and checks and balances have deteriorated. Accounts payable processing has been significantly delayed, and errors have been significantly increased. Required signatures and department heads approvals in accounts payables have not been consistently obtained, and in some cases, I have been discouraged from enforcing established county policy. IT policies regarding the financial system access have been overridden. Payroll reports and system activity logs are not being reviewed, combined with increased reliance on credit cards, increased credit limits, the removal of previous safeguards. The county is now heightened at risk for fraud, audit findings, and potential impacts on our credit rating. In summary, these issues affect audit, budget submission, and year-end closing are structural and ongoing. Without restoring proper process, controls, and statutory roles, we face significant and preventable audit concerns. And that's my statement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me what we've got here is internal fighting going on among various people in White Pine County. I regret to say, like Incline Village, I have a long experience with White Pine County. Paul probably might remember some of my previous previous situation, and it seems like we go through this on a fairly regular basis. And I'm not concerned about this internal infighting. I would like to get the matter resolved. Gina, did you have a comment you'd like to make on that?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Levitt. Gina Rackley, currently serving as Rackley Consulting LLC. Regarding the budget, that budget was submitted and approved by the Department of Taxation. All amounts were approved by the governing board during their budget workshops or subsequent meetings that took place between that time and the point in which the tentative budget was submitted. I did speak with Kelly Langley, who was still with the department at the time, to confirm that I was okay to go ahead and sign it, as the board had taken action to direct me to do the budget. She stated yes, so that's why it was submitted that way. Regarding any current matters, accounts payable now is about we're at about a month behind, mainly due to a lawsuit that was brought forth, and the people within the the entity that we're helping on their days off that no longer felt comfortable due to that lawsuit. So that left us no choice but to reach out to Eide Bailey, which I know is, you all know, is a very reputable firm. They are assisting us with accounts payable now, and they are working remotely, and we are moving forward with that. We have also, in a separate contract, White Pine County has agreed with a contract to assist the new finance director who started last week to help her with year-end close. I've also spoken with Chad Atkinson with Squire, formerly Hinton Burdick, who is their auditor, so that he is aware. He too was pleased that Eide Bailey was contracted with and feels that they can work together as well as possible. Now, will there possibly be some audit findings? I can't speak to that. But I do want to point out that White Pine County is moving forward, and you're right, Mr. Chair. The infighting within the county has thrown up many roadblocks.
Thank you. It seems to me that they're with hiring someone new, we're making progress in the right direction there. I think probably the best thing to do at this point, I don't recommend any action we need to take ourselves today. I think probably what we ought to do is I anticipate we'll have a meeting in August that we put this on the agenda for the August meeting, and let's see where we are with year-end closing then. See where we likely stand as it relates to the audit coming up, being due in November. And then if we need to, we can take some action at that point. Do we have any other opinion on that from members of the committee? Not hearing any. Let's go on to the next item.
Kelly Grammond, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. Next, we have Baker Water and Sewer GID. They are usually an exempt entity. Report from Baker Water and Sewer GID regarding the status of the 24-25 audit. Representing Baker Water and Sewer, we have Carrie Stedman, Treasurer. Documents in the packet are the correspondence between the GID and the budget analyst. They did get an extension until February 28th, 2026. The second and third requests for extension were denied. And he sent the last year's audit and the audit engagement letter, which we got in this morning's email.
Do we have somebody with us from this entity?
We have Carrie Stedman on Zoom. Please unmute yourself.
Go ahead.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, regarding the 2024 audit, there was some confusion as to whether our normal CPA, McMullen McPhee, would submit that to the Nevada Department of Taxation, or whether that would be the auditor, which is Alpine Summit. And yesterday I did attach for the 2024 audit completed by Alpine Summit, along with the 2024 GID governance letter from Alpine Summit. I also sent the 2025 audit engagement letter from Alpine Summit that was signed. I am currently working on that audit. So my apologies. I know you would have preferred to have this 5 days before the meeting to review, but I did send that to Kelly Grauman.
Yes.
To the Nevada Department of Taxation. I anticipate that I should be able to complete the 2025 audit, and in terms of the supporting documentation that's been requested by the auditor, as well as addressing any of the processes and protocols associated with the 2025 audit. I'm just guessing that once they receive that information from me, Alpine Summit should be able to complete the 2025 audit within about another week's time frame. That's about what it took them the last time for 2024. And from what I read in the 2024 audit, there was no material findings. So we anticipate the same thing. We're following the same processes and protocols used for 2024. And we've also signed an audit engagement letter for 2026 because we anticipate going over that $300,000 maximum and in expense. This is all being driven by grant monies and principal forgiveness loans that we have received from NDEP, Office of Financial Assistance, State Revolving Fund, as well as funding grant money we received from ARPA, which is being administered by the Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. So to kind of detail that going forward, the 2024 audit was driven by we had to go in and do some major existing repairs and upgrade to a system that's over 30 years old. We had to replace every saddle tap in town. We accomplished that on time, under budget, zero rework. But we have two other major projects going on. These are infrastructure projects. One is the Lehman Creek residential area water system. This is located just below the Great Basin National Park's eastern boundary. There's approximately 36 parcels there, and they had been in violation of the Clean Water Act for decades. And so we were able to acquire grant monies, again, through ARPA funding as well as state revolving fund to do that water project. The projected cost of that is going to be in the neighborhood of about $4.3 million. We pretty much expended the ARPA money, which was $1.6 million. And there's in reserve $2.5 million in the state revolving fund to continue with the Lehman Creek project. So that is definitely going to put us in line for the 2025 audit as well as the 2026 audit. Additionally, we have another project, the Baker Township infrastructure project. This is replacing aging plant, upgrading plant, and meeting current EPA standards, NDEP standards. You may not be aware, but State Revolving Fund has a maximum of $2.5 million per project. Well, the Baker Township project is estimated to be in the neighborhood of about $12.4 million. So we had to break it down into 4 separate phases. We're in the process of finishing phase 1 right now, which has to deal with right-of-ways, easements, parcel maps, preliminary engineering design, the environmental assessment, and of course, any of the cultural surveys that are required by state statute. So we're just about done with phase 1 and getting ready to move into phase 2. So if there's any questions from you regarding where we're at, I'm trying to stay on top of things here, listening to some of the prior presentations. I guess I don't feel so sorry for myself. Baker is a community with only 104 service connections and a population of right around maybe 120 to 140 people. We typically do not have the human resource, the tax base, the customer base to go out and hire professional consultants to do a lot of this compliance work. So I hope that you realize I'm the central point of contact, not only for fiscal matters, I'm also the central point of contact for the consulting engineers, the hydrologists, the archaeologists, the funding agencies, as well as the contractors. So we kind of wish we had the cash flow that some of these other larger communities have, but we don't. We are essentially an economically stressed community, and that's what basically qualifies us for a lot of the grant money that we're currently working with. Any questions, concerns?
I do have concerns. Let me tell you, I'm not happy about, we're at the 19th of May and we don't have an audit report for the previous June. You know,
I understand that.
and this, it doesn't even relate to money. It relates to getting it done on time. It doesn't cost any more to get it done now than it did if you had it done last November when you should have had it done. And I think you need to get on the ball and quit messing around with this and get it done.
Well, one of the difficulties I'm dealing with is our regular CPA who does all of our financial reports, as well as the external auditor, Alpine Summit. They don't seem to be putting a lot of priority on the necessity to get these audits done. The Department of Taxation not only has that to deal with, our CPA has not submitted the 2026-2027 tentative budget to me yet so that I can present it to our board, nor have I received the 2025 financial statements, which are basically part of the underlying supporting documentation as part of these audits. So it's your comment. I guess I need to go get on the CPAs to get this work done, because that's what we paid them money for.
I agree. Or if they don't do it, you get somebody new with the CPA in front of their name.
Well, okay, I appreciate that input. You ever been to White Pine County?
I have.
You ever been to Baker, Nevada?
I have.
Okay, well, we're 62 miles away from Ely, and McMullen McPhee is the consultant that with the CPA consultant we've been using for over 30 years. They just closed their Ely office, and now I've lost that resource, that local resource, and I'm having to deal with the headquarters, which is Elko, Nevada. And so finding the people, the qualified licensed people to conduct, developing these financial reports, not just to mention, assisting with these audits is pretty difficult. We're in a very remote, isolated area.
I understand.
I mean, I am totally in agreement with you. This stuff needs to be done. It's just getting them to get motivated to get it done.
Okay, let me tell you what. We are going to meet, I believe, in August.
Correct.
I want you back before us in August, and I want to hear in August that this audit has been completed. And you to do whatever's necessary to get that done so that we don't have this continuing on. Not having it done is in violation of the state law. It's not good for your own residents who you're not getting financial reporting. I'm really serious about this. I think by August, we need to have, when we meet again, we need to have audit in place.
Now you're referring to the 2025 audit?
I am. Obviously, you're not going to have the next audit in place, but you
Yeah,
also.
2026 hasn't concluded yet.
I understand that. But I want to also at that time get a report on how the new year will be a month, say a month and a half in. And you should have started the process by then for the 26th audit. So let's get a report on those two things.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
this is Board Member Foley. I do want to point out for Mr. Stedman that the auditor doesn't have to be in the community. I know White Pine uses an auditor out of St. George, Utah, and so do a number of other counties and other entities in that area of the state. So I echo your comments about finding a CPA that'll get it done in a timely manner for you. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
thank
Well,
you.
Mr. Foley, I appreciate that, and I may have to come back to you before August and ask you for a recommendation as to what accounting firm, CPA firm is reliable and actually, meeting the requirements in the Nevada revised statutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Member Johnson, to Mr. Stedman, if you want, probably would be good to get a hold of White Pine County or the White Pine County School District or the City of Ely to find out who their auditors are, since they have to come to that area anyway. It wouldn't be too big of a stretch for them to also do the water district, and there might be some savings from being in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, you're correct, Mr. Johnson, because mobilization, demobilization is pretty significant cost, whether you're dealing with a contractor or a CPA firm or an audit group that's coming out. So I appreciate that. And I will follow up with the City of Ely.
Okay, we'll see you in August.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's go on to the next item, Elko County.
Kelly Graham, Supervisor, Local Government Finances. We have Elko County. Report from Elko County regarding the status of the 24-25 audit and the audited FY25 actual versus the FY27 budget. And I found out that Elko County did receive a draft audit this morning. Representing Elko County, we have Comptroller Mary Kane. And documents in the packet for audit are audit emails with budget analyst and extension until 2/28/2026.
This is Mary Kane.
Go ahead.
We did receive the draft financial statements from the auditor this morning. So I've got those to prepare the MD&A and get that so it can be issued here in the next few weeks. I believe our auditor, Terry Gage with Eide Bailey, is also on the line if you have any questions for her.
What's been the problem this year? Why are we so late?
There was new software implemented, and there were some issues with the implementation and a module that did not work. And then when I got here in February, I found these out, and I've been working to fix those issues so that we could get the auditors their final information to finish the audit, which has been done.
Are you in a situation now where we will not have this same thing for the fiscal year that ends in a month and a half?
Yes, I've already put in place backup plans for that module that doesn't work, just as I had to do this time for next year in case we're still having issues with it, so that this will not be an issue again.
Okay. Was the audit on time in the previous fiscal year?
What's on me? I don't remember, sir. I just started here as the comptroller in February.
Okay. Okay, I think as long as we have the audit and you have measures in place so that we'll not have this happening again, I think that probably, for right now, is acceptable. And just understand that if we don't have received on time, we're going to have you back on the agenda again.
Understood.
Okay. Let's go on to the next item.
Kelly Graham, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. If I could recommend that combining the next two in our discussion together. They're 4 is for discussion, report of the department regarding third-year declining ending fund balance for the school districts in accordance with NRS 387.3045. And then a briefing between the Committee on Local Government Finance and Local Government Finance staff. As schools facing layoffs, deep cuts, elimination of programs, status of pupil count for the school districts from FY20 to FY27. Excuse me. Documents in the packet include news clippings from various news sources talking about the challenges of the school districts for the next fiscal year. And I also gathered information on the school counts through the PCFP, the budgeted pupil count, and the actual audited pupil count. I have the total funding from the PCFP, and then I have the actual audit amounts.
Paul or Marty, could you? This seems to be an area of concern if we're moving forward as it relates to school districts and what's been happening. Could you just give us your feelings a little bit on where we stand or anything we need to do on this matter?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Paul. Yeah, I don't, this is a tough one because this is all school districts, including the charter school and it's a product of declining birth rate primarily in grades K through 3. So enrollment, which is tied to funding, is down throughout the entire state, not just in the state of Nevada as well. It's a much broader picture than that. And that's why I think you've seen, I think it's 7 school districts have had a slow erosion of fund balance over time. And that's what the fund balance is there, is to, buy some time until you can make the adjustments to your budget and balance your budget. So I don't know, other than to make sure that the school districts have the tools in place to balance their budgets so that we don't have a Douglas County School District situation all over again. I'm not sure what else can be done about that.
It appears that under existing Nevada law, it's sort of when you have a declining enrollment, we sort of run into this situation. Is that your feeling as well?
Yeah, it's a tough situation because like for right now in May, the school districts have to make decisions on all of certificated workforce, their teachers, for the next school year. So that's a pretty good guess. So I think it's by May 15th or at some point in the third week in May or one of those points of time, they have to offer letters of intent for all of the teachers they expect to bring back the next year. So that means they have to guess what their enrollment's going to be for the subsequent year. If they guess too high, then they're going to be stuck with more certificated staff that's going to be in contract for the next fiscal year than they would have otherwise had. So it's a tough spot. And I don't have a good solution for that. That's kind of the game they have to play when they're trying to guess what their operating expenses are going to be for the next year. The only thing I think they could recommend at this point is reviewing estimates to ensure that their estimates reflect declining enrollment and reductions in staff moving forward instead of the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's a difficult situation they place themselves in. I think something obviously that we've got to watch pretty carefully to make sure we don't get more Douglas County situations. Any other
Mr. Chairman?
Have any comment about that? Marty, do you have anything on?
Yeah, and I want to echo a lot of what Paul said, is that I think to a large extent, school districts have some real timing issues. And trying to put together a budget without knowing what their enrollment's going to be. And so looking at Douglas, as kind of an example, I'd have to go back and check, but I think between 2020 fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 combined, I think their revenues from the state because of declining enrollment were $5 million under budget. And so, like Paul said, you make staffing decisions in May, you find out what your enrollment is, and then, you know, as your enrollment drops during the year, your revenues drop during the year, but yet you've hired all of your teachers, you know, 3, 6, 9 months ago. You can't do anything about that. And so I know that's beyond the scope of our committee, and I am not a school operations guy. I can get you money to build things. I could do that in my sleep. But the operations side is difficult, but I have been all over this state working with school districts, and this is not a new problem. Well, I shouldn't say that way. I think there are districts that have had increasing enrollment that are now starting to see declining enrollment, and that's a big difference for them. And I think that's where Paul said that looking at estimates and figuring out, you know, what your estimated pupil count is becoming more and more important. I mean, if you overestimate by a couple hundred kids, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Conversely, if you underestimate by a couple hundred kids, you're probably in a world of hurt. So there might need to be something more done that's beyond our scope in terms of getting something in place to help fix this and address it.
It appears to me, and at least, that this is something that where the school districts ought to get together and get a presentation to make before the next session of the legislature.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Member Johnson again. I know the Commission on School Funding is taking a look at this. They had hold harmless provisions that have changed over the years. They used to basically have a count day years ago under the old Nevada plan formula that basically guaranteed the money that they would have had based on a prior higher enrollment and the current enrollment. So that if there was a bad guess, that they wouldn't lose the money related to the lower student population. So they're going back to take a look at that to see if they can improve the hold harmless provisions. So at least provides a little bit more financial stability. You know, like Marty said, you know, under the current formula, if you lose students during the year, you lose funding. Under the old Nevada plan count day formula, you didn't lose the revenue. And I think there was some savvy with respect to that because the school districts have to build their operating budget before the end of the current fiscal year for the subsequent fiscal year. And you have an operating cycle of a year, and most of your labor is on contract for a year. So if you have declines in revenue during the year, it's really tough to make changes during the year. So I know that they're going back to take a look at that. So that's hopefully something shakes through that helps kind of stabilize at least that piece so that school districts have a little bit more financial certainty when they have declining enrollment.
Thanks. Any other comments from members of the committee? Let's go on to the item number 6 then.
Okay. Kelly Grammond, Supervisor, Local Government Finances. 6 for possible action, consideration for approval of February 25th, 2026 CLGF meeting minutes and consideration for approval of March 27th, 2026 CLGF subcommittee meeting minutes.
We have a motion on the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I found I'm sorry, I meant to mention, I did find one, I believe, change in the minutes, sorry. Page 303 of the packets, which is actually page 3, top of the paragraph, stating that it says nothing that the current arrangements are temporary. I believe that should be noting that the current arrangements are temporary. I'm sorry, I meant to email you guys early so you could have that ahead of time, and I didn't.
Okay, with that change then, Is that acceptable in your motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay,
For possible action, schedule date and review agenda topics for the next meeting. And I have White Pine County, Baker Water and Sewer GID, and Douglas County School District. You-
I mentioned earlier, I'm thinking of August, probably the latter half of August for a date. Does that work out for all of you? Okay. And of course, as time goes on, we'll pick up additional agenda based on the filing and final budget and audit situations as they go forward.
We need to do the subcommittee minutes.
Oh, well, yes, okay,
was that?
the motion was just for the 1 minute?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a motion for the subcommittee minutes in.
Well, as one of the two that was there, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second since I was the other one.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
And I guess, Mr. Chairman, as long as we just brought up the minutes of that meeting, do you feel like the subcommittee needs to meet with Douglas School District prior to our August meeting of the full committee?
I think that would be very good. I think what your meeting with them prior to this meeting was a real help for us.
Could I offer one suggestion on that? And I can't remember if I mentioned this to Paul, but I know Tom and I mentioned it. It might be useful to have two more members of the subcommittee, just so that Tom and I can talk, Paul and I can talk, without that forming a majority of the committee, if that would be possible.
Okay, do we have any volunteers?
It's loads of fun.
Well, if there's fun involved, I'll be there.
Okay,
I've had enough.
anyone else?
I would offer, but I'm new at this, so I don't know if I could any help.
Okay. Okay, anything else anyone wants to bring up before we close? I might just mention my term of office is coming up at the end of October.
Again already?
We should have on a future agenda to eliminate your terms of office.
I was going to say, in the next session, we should just make it a lifetime appointment.
Yeah.
And even beyond that.
Yeah, the next thing is that in September, I turn 84 too. Maybe I'm old enough, I can't do it anymore. I know there's some people who have been here today that are not happy with me. Some of the things I said to them, but I'm not
Public
changing my
comment,
mind.
public comment.
Yes, we're now into public comment.
Persons wishing to provide public comment remotely may access the meeting by using the telephone numbers and meeting IDs posted on the agenda. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and comments based on viewpoint will not be restricted. The chairperson may allow additional time to be given to a speaker as time allows at his sole discretion. NRS 241.020, NRS 241.030. Are there any members in attendance in Reno who wish to provide public comment? If you are on Zoom and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. If you are on the telephone, please dial *9 to be put in the queue. I do not see any public comment.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? If not, we are adjourned.
See you, everybody.